Welcome back to the Means Report. We're covering Operation Fox Hunt, that massive bust this past week in Richmond County as law enforcement at the local level worked with law enforcement colleagues at all other levels to haul in suspects, drugs, and guns and make the streets of Richmond County safer. We're going to talk about it with Scott Peebles, a captain with the Sheriff's Office, find out how it all went down. But first, here's Jillian Benfield.
Van load after van load, deputies and ATF agents brought over 60 suspects into custody after a 17-month-long investigation. 2 undercover deputies took jobs at Cyrus Corner because they suspected criminal activity going on at the strip mall on Deansbridge Road.
We had to get our undercover folks to get in there and be trusted and see what was going on.
Once they achieved that, they say people were selling more guns and drugs out of there than they expected. After getting the contacts they needed, they moved to an apartment complex off Wrightsboro Road. They posed as street-level firearms and drug dealers interested in buying from the criminals.
But this just was not a bunch of low-level guys in the street. These were guys that were extremely dangerous and we were very concerned with.
8 months into the investigation, ATF and the U.S. Marshal Services got involved. Deputies and agents targeted 75 suspects. Sheriff Strength says some of them are gang members. 29 of them are convicted felons.
When these guys come off the street, we're going to see a decrease in residential burglaries. We're going to see a decrease in commercial burglaries. We're going to see a decrease in car break-ins. We're going to see a decrease in general thefts.
Tonight, deputies have 61 people in jail, 192 guns, plus crack cocaine, marijuana, and ecstasy off the streets. But Operation Fox Hunt is far from over.
Well, it's just starting for these guys up here, from the law enforcement officers to the prosecutors.
Jillian Benfield reporting. Captain Scott Peebles, one of the leaders of that investigation, that sting. He's joining us right now. Worked right alongside the sheriff and the ATF through all of this. Captain Peebles, thanks for being here and congratulations.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
First of all, right on the heels of Operation Augusta Ink, a similar bust where we hauled tons of people and tons of crime off the streets. We do Operation Fox Hunt. Do y'all just lay low for a while and then come back with these huge busts that make us safer? I mean, this really, you don't see this in a lot of communities, things this big.
You don't, and it's a very risky business, and for the sheriff to undertake these kinds of operations really is something that shows his dedication, because anybody could get hurt and he could really be criticized for running these things if something went wrong. And for him to continue to do it just shows that he's committed towards a proactive enforcement in Richmond County when it comes to gun crime especially.
Well, he said there that we would notice a difference, and you have seen car break-ins on the rise in Richmond County. We saw a bad year last year for murders. Really, day to day, are we going to see some of those criminals and some of that activity back off?
We think that you can't help but see a difference. I know that back in May, we uncovered one of the largest or most active burglary rings in a multi-jurisdiction in 2 states and 4 or 5 counties. And we did that with the help of Fox Hunt. And in that case, we had to try and find alternate methods to arrest these suspects and take them into custody without exposing the operation, and we did. And so we know that there is going to be some impact.
Captain Peebles, let me get to a couple of viewer questions first, and then I want to get into the world of undercover police work and get you to tell us some pretty fascinating things that happen. First of all, let's look at, and before you put it up, Marlene, and we'll go ahead and leave it up. Folks, while you're digesting this, let me say to you that there has been some criticism from people who've gone to our website, and because we cover all sides of every story, I'm presenting that criticism to Captain Peebles right now for you. One person writes, I do understand that police have a job to do, but when they target African Americans in a black community, I have a problem with that. Not one time did I see a white person included in the bust. I only saw young black men that are being held accountable for something that white people are just as guilty of. I felt like this was racist, and the black community needs to take a stand. When are they going to do an Operation Westlake or an Operation Columbia County? You better believe they'll find more weapons and drugs in history. Tanya writes that. Thank you, Tanya. Captain Peebles, was it all black? Was it racist? Please address that.
The Nearly all of the suspects in this case were black that we identified, but let me answer it in two parts. We started this operation at the request of one of the ex-county commissioners, Calvin Holland, and at that time he didn't know what we were going to do, but he asked us to do something about that strip mall in his district there on Deansbridge Road. If you go back and look at the statistics, there was a great deal of drug activity and shootings, and it wasn't by our design that everyone who was participating in that at that mall was black, but this was something that was asked for us to do by a black leader in the community. Secondly, when you're targeting guns in Richmond County right now, the black community has openly acknowledged that there is a huge problem with black-on-black crime. They have asked the sheriff's office to get involved and to do something about it, and other than responding when someone is shot or killed and trying to find out who did it, there are very few other proactive means that we can do from an enforcement manner. So this is something that I believe that the African American community is proud of, and I think that by and large they stand behind us on this.
Let me talk about the undercover police work that went into this, and thank you for addressing that. You're talking about more than a year's worth of scary day-to-day duties for these officers. Are they really in danger? Are they at risk of being found out and perhaps hurt? Is it that real?
Absolutely, it's that real. If you go back and look, just after we pulled out of Cyrus Corner and moved to the apartment complex we moved to, there was a shooting there in the parking lot of the strip mall, and it's not that we were so much concerned about the fact that someone would find out that the undercovers were police officers and retaliate against them. What you more would worry about in that situation is that we would lose contact with that person. They just wouldn't have anything to do with us. But what you worry about is obviously they don't think you're a police officer, they don't think you're associated, and they would treat you any way they would treat anybody else on the street. And we had several instances where we had what we thought were very, very dangerous situations, and we received intel that this person was going to try and rob us, or this person was going to try and do this, and so it's a day-to-day struggle to make sure that you're doing everything you can to keep these undercovers safe.
Can they work again now that the people know who they are, or knew that? Or I guess a better question is, do the people who y'all busted know which ones the undercovers were, and can those men and women work again?
They'll work in law enforcement, but they won't be undercover officers, obviously. When we hire undercovers, very few people, even at the sheriff's office, and I'm talking less than 10, including the sheriff himself, understand who these people are that we've actually got undercover. So if another officer ran across them, they wouldn't know that they're a police officer. Wow. And in fact, we've said many times, if they were caught in the middle of a drug deal, they would go to jail just like everybody else. They wouldn't say, hey, wait, I'm a police officer, because that would jeopardize the integrity of the entire operation.
Let me ask you very quickly, when does CSI stop and when does real life begin? Do they live every aspect of the criminal's life, doing things that criminals do while they're in that environment to maintain their contact, or is there a limit?
There is a limit, but a great deal of what they do consumes them, and they definitely live an alternative lifestyle from what they are used to doing, and the toll that it takes on them and their families and the isolation that they face is pretty significant.
Yeah, I imagine it is, and that is something that we should all be aware of and concerned about. What's next for the Richmond County Sheriff's Office? We do, and I have a vantage point of sitting here and watching these stories unfold week after week and year after year. What are you going to do next? What can the people, the citizens, look for?
Well, we're just going to continue to be creative and try and find new methods for being proactive. You know, it's having done it for so long, you get tired of going to homicides and you get tired of being on the reactionary side, so you really want to put all of your efforts into, you know, what can we do to prevent crime, and this is one of the things that we can do to obviously prevent gun violence, and that's what we are committed to doing.
Do you think that the message has been sent, that the publicity that Operation Fox Hunt has received and Operation Augusta Ink has received, do you think it sends a message to the criminals, maybe we better go somewhere else, or maybe we better back off, or do they lay low only to rise up again?
Maybe a little of both. We know for a fact that several of the targets that we dealt with started having concerns about Augusta Ink. They remembered Augusta Ink. They talked about Augusta Ink, and we had several targets that actually had contact with us thought about it afterwards, and we couldn't initiate contact again, and we know from intel sources that it was because they thought, what if this is, something like Augusta Ink? So, but I think it can be done again in the manner in which we did it. We want to keep everybody on their toes and have them thinking you never know who this could be.
Boy, you never do. You never know who's going to be right across having a conversation with you. It might be the law.
That's right.
Well, again, congratulations. I was pleasantly surprised that you agreed to come in because I know you've been slammed all week.
We have been busy.
And I appreciate it. I hope you get some rest, and I thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Very much so. I appreciate it. Captain Scott Peebles with the Richmond County Sheriff's Office. Wow, what a week for them. When we come back, how you can shape future editions of the Means Report. We'll have important information for you to do that. Stay with us.